Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. And this is the day 9 of Free Kubernetes series. In this day 9 of Free Kubernetes series, I'm going to tell you the real-time questions that are going to be asked in the Certified Kubernetes Administrator exam. And almost all the questions are falling down in the similar pattern. For your information, this document will not be shared. Whatever the questions were given in the exam or can come in the exam are the resemblance of these things. It doesn't mean that the same questions can come, but most of the questions are almost same. Okay, so let's get started into this video. I'll be explaining every step, everything that is needed to solve these real-time scenarios even in your organizations. Before getting started, I would request you to hit a like on this video, and if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel because there are many videos on this kind of patterns which can help you to understand how a real-time use case can work, or how can a real-time use case can happen in your organization. So let's get started. So task-wise questions have been given and the data is shown to you. So let's get started. So all of you see here, the task number 1 states like this. You have been asked to create a new cluster role for your deployment pipeline and bind it to a specific service account scope to a specific namespace. So for your information, what I'm trying to tell you is, see, whatever the Kubernetes clusters are there, okay, okay, it always does like this only. Okay, whatever the Kubernetes clusters are there, all the clusters of the Kubernetes are given access with respect to RBAC. Okay, I wanted to explain you, but it is not working. So let me open my notepad. There I can explain you in a better way. Okay, I have to explain you and then tell you the answer or the scenario, how it follows, right? So let me open that. Yes. Okay, beautiful. And also all the links are in the description for previous videos. You can definitely check that. So what I'm going to tell you is, whenever there is a Kubernetes cluster, okay, and this cluster, someone is trying to access, some XYZ persons are there, they are trying to access this Kubernetes cluster resource. So what is the primary impact of the, let's say, like access? Okay, so basically all the Kubernetes clusters are accessible with respect to your service accounts. Service accounts are nothing but, for any organization or for any project, these are important for an individual or a group of people access for a particular system. So here the system is your Kubernetes cluster and the group of people are your team or any other team who are trying to access the system. Now this group of people are added to a service account. Okay, and this service account is again added on the Kubernetes cluster with respect to the cluster role and cluster role binding. So let's see how it goes. You have been asked the question to create a cluster role for a deployment pipeline and bind it to a specific service account. As I have told you, service accounts are for the users who are trying to access the Kubernetes cluster, and cluster role is basically in the Kubernetes cluster, it's tied up with the service account and it is making sure that the Kubernetes is giving access to the particular service account. That's it. Okay, create a new cluster role named deployment. Okay, create a new cluster role named deployment-cluster role, which always allows to create the following resource type. It means that whenever a user is coming onto the Kubernetes cluster and he is having a service account, let's say the account name is test, and he has been added with the cluster role and the cluster role binding, let's say that. So with the combination of these two, the person is having the access to create deployment resource, the person is having the access to create stateful set, and the person is having the access to create daemon set. These are the resources of Kubernetes which the person who is added to the service account can create. So let's see like how it goes. Now, before we do that, let's see like some steps. Create a new service account. First of all, we are creating a service account named CI/CD token in the existing namespace app T1. So in the Kubernetes cluster, there is an imaginary namespace. Namespace is a space for your project where the application's isolation happens, and that particular namespace is particularly given for a project. Now here, it is telling that create a service account here with the name CI/CD-token, bind the new cluster role deployment-cluster role to the new service account CI/CD token limited to the namespace. It means that all the service account and the cluster role are binded to this particular namespace. There is one namespace, and in this namespace, any users who are particularly in this particular service accounts are accessing that things. Okay, very, very much important. No other people. If there is some other namespace, let's say namespace 1, namespace 2, they will not be having the access. Only the person who is having the access to deploy or who is doing the deployments on this namespace app-t1 can only access this. So let's see like how the answer goes in. So I'll delete all these things. So let's go up. So basically, if you see here, the first things are setting the config. So basically 𝐄𝐚_config use context K8. So basically we are setting the kube configuration. And after that, you see kubectl create cluster role. So with one single line command, without using any Kubernetes manifest files, with the Kubernetes inline commands, you are going to create a cluster role deployment. So you see kubectl create cluster role, the name of the cluster role, and verbs are very much important. So it means that, see what it is telling, the person should have only the access to create resources. It means that, that's why I'm telling, let's say delete. So the verb will be delete here. Okay. Because I'm only telling that the person of that particular service account should only create. He should not delete. He should not get. All those things are verbs here. On which resource? Deployment, stateful set, and daemon set. So after this, a cluster role will be created with deployment-cluster role name. Once this is done, I'm going to create a service account. See here very carefully, kubectl create service account, the token name and in the namespace. Beautiful. So we got one cluster role and we got one service account. So these two are done. Now what is the next step? We have to bind the service account with the cluster role. So how do you bind it? There is an option in Kubernetes to bind the service account and the cluster role, bind it together to the Kubernetes cluster by using the cluster role binding. So that is that kubectl create cluster role binding, the cluster role binding as per the name given, cluster role name, service account. Okay, cluster role name is this one which have been created, and the service account is this one. Okay, so that's how you are going to give access to any of your team members or any other team members by creating cluster role binding, cluster role, and service accounts. Okay, similarly we are following in all the organization. Even wherever the organization I have worked, I have done the same. So that's how the things are happening. Okay, I hope that I'm making sense. If I'm making sense, please guys, please यार like कर दो वीडियो को, बहुत मेहनत लग रहा है इन सब काम में. ठीक है, I hope you are understanding things. What is service account, what is cluster role binding, बहुत easily I have explained you. But यार एक like तो बनता है, and comment down how you have felt till now. Okay, let's go to the task number 2. Set the node named EKS node 0 as unavailable. Okay, and reschedule all the pods running on this particular node to the some other node. So here, what is there? Let's say I have a master node, I have a worker node. Okay, what I'm trying to do is, I want my worker node to get completely drained, and I want all my pods running on this to get rescheduled on other worker nodes. So how do I do it? This is an exam question. How do you do it? How do you do the worker node draining out? You want your worker node to be unavailable. How do you do that? Any idea? Comment down in the comment section. You have 2 worker nodes. I want to make sure one of my worker node is gone. I don't want this. How do you do that? So in Kubernetes, there is a concept which is telling you that, boss, this is how the things have to be done. So let me show you how the things are done. Yes. Yes. So you see here in Kubernetes, this is the process. How do you drain the node and make sure like all the pods are evicted? You see here kubectl get nodes. Okay, so you have 1 master node and 2 worker nodes. So basically 1 master and 2 worker nodes you have. Okay, and there is communication going on. The option to drain one of the worker nodes. So in the question, they are telling that one of the worker node, you need to drain it. So what is the thing? Okay, let me do this. Yes. So this particular node, I have to drain out. So the command in the Kubernetes is kubectl drain the node name. And here one one thing is, if you want to ignore any pods, if you want to ignore any deployments, if you want to ignore anything from this draining out, okay, so you can tell ignore that particular resource type. So here I am ignoring the daemon sets. What is daemon sets? Daemon sets are nothing but these are the important components or important pods or important components of your node, which are helping your node to be up and running, like prerequisites. You can tell, like, suppose there is a monitoring agent. Okay, on my node, I need a monitoring agent. If my node goes down, automatically this monitoring agent, when the new node comes in, self-healing, Kubernetes is self-healing. So whenever a new node is coming in, these all systems should be up and running in the node. No manual things should run it. So for them, we call daemon sets. Demon, don't think like a demon. No, that is different. This is different. Okay. So these are the ones which are helping your nodes to be up and running. And these are mandatory components of the worker nodes. Okay. You can think like that. So once you have drained out, you can see here, all the pods will go into the evicted state. Okay. So very beautiful. So you saw, right? So when we are draining any Kubernetes node, that pod will go into evicted state. Now, once they are going into the evicted state, you can see here, after that, the entire node is drained out. Okay. And then if you do kubectl get nodes, you will be able to see ready and scheduling disabled. So basically what is happening is we are doing cordon, that particular situation when a drain, when a worker node, okay, is in unavailable state or unscheduled state, it is the state you call cordon. Cordon is nothing but, again, I am repeating for your understanding, cordon is nothing but if a worker node is not available for the Kubernetes to deploy pods, or it is scheduling disabled state, that is called your cordon. So you can see here, node 1 already cordon, correct? So that is what we are going to do with the drain command. So once this is done, your task is completed. So you just need to attain this particular state. Okay, that is important. Okay, now let's go ahead. Let's go to the task number 3. Given an existing Kubernetes cluster, okay, running on version 1.22.1. Now, anyways, the latest version 1.30. I think 0 is there or 1 is there. I'm pretty much sure 1.30 is the latest version. But because just to take this question, okay. Given an existing Kubernetes cluster running version 1.22.1, upgrade all the Kubernetes control plane and node components. So control plane and worker. So basically they are telling that update all the worker nodes and the master node components on the master node, okay, only to the version of 1.22.2. Be sure to drain the master node before upgrading it and uncordon it after upgrade. So basically what they are telling, when you are upgrading, drain out the master. Initially, drain out the master. And once the upgrade is done, okay, uncordon it means you make the master node again available. So you have a Kubernetes cluster, master and worker node, and you are telling that in the master node, first drain it and then basically uncordon it. Okay, so how do we do it in the Kubernetes? Let's see that task number 3. Okay, beautiful. Right. So when we are doing the kubectl config, you use config. So I'm going to use this. Now, after that, you do the kubectl get nodes. You are able to see one master and two worker nodes. Okay, here one master and one worker node only. Okay, so control plane and one worker node is there. So what you are going to do, kubectl drain master. Okay, ignore daemon sets. So as the step number 1, what are you going to do in the upgrade of the entire Kubernetes cluster? You drain the master node. With this draining, what will happen? All the pods will go into the evicted state, correct? And you will be able to see that the master node is drained. kubectl get nodes, the master node is disabled state. Now, if you are thinking that the master node is like not working or anything, see here, the status still remains ready. It means that it's ready, but not able to take any data or any kind of deployments. It will not do, or it will not process any of the data. Just it will be like ideal state. Okay. Now, once you have done this, SSH into the master node, because master node is the kind of an EC2 instance or any kind of system itself. You go into the master node, And then you will be able to see the things you should not see. Okay. So let me take it ahead. Yeah. Okay, so once you have SSH into the system, you will be able to see, you have to go into the root, okay, from the student user, you are going into the root, apt install kubeadm, kubelet and kubectl. So all of this into the latest version. So you are upgrading the packages of the system to 1.22.2. Once the upgrades are done, it will take a little bit of time. So you are able to see all the system. Basically, this is an Ubuntu system. So all the upgrades are being done. Then you are going to install the kubeadm, this version, kubelet, this version, and this version on the master node. You are able to check like all the things are there or not. So once this is done, let's see what is the next step. Okay. So here kubeadm and the cluster versions are getting updated. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now here, if you are able to see, the versions have been updated. Okay, upgrade to the latest version in the V1.22 series. So these all versions are getting changed. Now, you see here, it is telling a command, kubeadm upgrade apply V1.22.9. So the first thing is, once the draining out of the node is done, okay, then you install all the required packages on that and you upgrade your system. Once the upgrade is done, you finally do the upgrades of the kubeadm also. So you are doing the kubeadm upgrade apply version 1.22. So once the upgrades are done, you are able to see the entire system upgrade is done, and you are able to also see your cluster was upgraded successfully. So here kubelet, kubectl, and your kubeadm, these three components are done, and finally you are able to restart your kubelet service. And because you need to do uncordon the master node, so you see here master node uncordon. So what is the command, guys? kubectl uncordon master node name, and you will be seeing here into the ready state again. Okay, right? If you are liking this video till here, if you have watched till here, make sure that you are going to hit a like on this video, guys. Please, please. That is very much important. Okay? Right. So let's go to the next task. Task number 4. So basically in this task number 4, you will be able to see that how a snapshot of etcd is taken and saved in a particular folder. So I would like to tell you very beautiful task this is, and how do you work with the etcd database. Okay? First, I will tell you what does the etcd do. Then I will tell you the rest of the things. Okay. Now you consider that I have a data, correct? And in this data, there is a key value pair, correct? So the data is coming from the manifest file of the Kubernetes, and this etcd data is stored. Now, why this name has been given? I have already told you in the day 1 of our Kubernetes class. etc is the folder name. D is kind of a, you can say like, I can say like scaling, okay, dynamic in nature. The database is dynamic in nature. It is distributed database. Okay. Right. Now what they are telling, create a snapshot of the existing database, okay, and save the snapshot to this particular folder, backup folder. Now, in any database, the commands like MySQL dump, when you do, okay, database name and the where you want to send the data, file name. So almost here also, because it is a database, the commands remain same. So how that commands comes, you see here, to access the data. Okay. Oh, sorry, to access the etcd database, you have to use etcd ctl. Similarly, you have kubectl, you have to use etcd ctl. So here you see here, etcd API version of 3, etcdl endpoints, the database endpoint, CA-cert. Now 2379 is the port of the database, etcd. CA-cert, some other certificates, some keys, and finally, see, to access any database, you need basically the credentials. Correct? For those credentials only, we are passing this. Okay. etcdl etcdl, URL of the database, credentials of the database, and where you have to store. So simply the three components you remember here, etcdl, the URL, and the certificates with which you are able to access, and along with the key. And snapshot save is the command. etcdl snapshot save the file name. So all the data which is in the current database is stored onto this snapshot.db. Very beautiful. This is snapshot save command. I'll tell you another command. The same way you can restore the data also, right? etcdl, etcd ctl, kubectl, like that. Snapshot restore the data from the previous stored data to the existing data. Okay, so that's how the restore and the save happens. And very beautiful concepts in all the organizations. These concepts are used. Now, if you have watched the video till here, now already I have spent 20 minutes. I'm going to tell you the next questions tomorrow. If you have liked this video, you comment down part 2. Okay, again, I'm telling you, comment down part 2. I'm going to tell you the remaining questions from this document. Okay, everything is straightforward answer, and these all are real-time interview questions also. So make sure you are watching tomorrow's part also. So this is Praveen signing off from this video. We'll meet you in tomorrow's video. Make sure that you are subscribing to the channel. Bye.